Let the regular village board meeting for Monday, January 26th. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, Stacy?
Mayor Dia,
Here?
Trustee Bowden,
Here.
Trustee Hudson,
Here.
Trustee Richards, Trustee Sandberg,
Here.
Trustee Sluse. Here. Trustee Sturba.
Here.
Do we have any public comments?
Hello, everybody. Say Happy New Year, but I know you already had a meeting earlier in the month, but I'm up here, Ed Nelson, president of the Peatone Historical Society. We had our Christmas in the village in December, and then pretty much January is kind of our off time, not much happening, although we made a few book sales and a couple of the little things and connected with people. Our first meeting for the for the Historical Society is Thursday, February 5th, so in about a week and a half we start back up again. We're looking to have a better year than last year, and we invite everybody to come on out to our meeting or get involved with the Historical Society. We're always looking for more help, input, volunteers. It's not the same historical society that people might remember from the past. I think we're trying to have fun, trying to do some good things, bring the mill back to life, and get the community involved. So next Thursday is our first meeting. It's at the Helping Hands Building, 202 North First Street, 7 p.m. See you there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Let's move on to our does anybody else would like to speak? Moving on to our consent agenda. We're going to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2026 regular village board meeting. Approve payroll and accounts payable. And approve a raffle license for Tractors for a Cure for 5 or more raffles per year. For our payroll, for the period ending January 17th, 26, we have a total of $74,035.08. Accounts payable for the period ending January 23rd, 2026. General fund was $72,101.52. Motor fuel tax fund, $9,038.40. Business Development District Fund, $744.25. TIF 1 Fund, $2,229.58. TIF 2 Fund, $6,492.07, to a total of $90,605.82.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion Sluse, second Sturba.
Trustee Bowden,
Yes.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg,
Yes.
Trustee Sluse.
Yes.
Trustee Sturba.
Yes.
Moving on to the staff and committee reports. Troy, do you have anything to start with?
I don't have anything, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Bob?
Our report is snow.
Lots of it.
We had lots of it. One question or one thing I wanted to tell the residents. They may notice streets are still snow covered. They are salted. You just don't have the temps or the traffic. So, like today we had sun. They melted off quite a bit. So, as we get a little warmer, they'll melt. So, there is salt down. So, if we get those questions in the hall or anywhere else out in the public. So, continue to just do day-to-day stuff. The guys trimming trees on the plow routes. Doing our winter project. But mainly it's just we were in plow mode lately. It just seems like one after the other. So, that's what I got.
You guys did a fine job. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
It was fun as usual, so.
Chief?
Good evening, trustees, mayor. So I put kind of a year-end totals for the police department, and one of the things that kind of stuck out to me when I was going over them is the crime against people went down quite a bit as opposed to a couple of last years, but burglaries were up as opposed to some of last year's, but that's kind of, we had 7 in one night, the night that hit it all, which that counts as 7 separate incidents, so that's kind of, if you're wondering why that's so high, that's because that's so high. And then one thing that I didn't have a chance to put in this report that I'll try to get for the next one, me and Nick, we had in one of our meetings, and I started working, I just didn't have time to get in, is we were talking about stuff that we've sent to collections. So I just want to get you information for the amount that we've sent to collections so far when you guys approve that, and then how much we've actually collected, just so you guys have that information too. So I'll try to get that for the next meeting, but Loretta's currently working on that. All right?
Sounds good.
If you don't have any questions on
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Anne Marie on the treasurer's report?
No.
No.
Okay. Nick?
I don't have a written report, but most of the agenda is things I've been working on with our staff, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. Last week, we had the Downtown Overlay District. We had an open house here in the boardroom before the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think it was 18 to 20 people in that. I think it was a good crowd, good questions. That was meant just because we had the Planning and Zoning Commission anyway, to give another opportunity for the general public to come in and ask questions, so we had some boards. And Maura from Robinson did a little presentation. Following that open house, we had the Planning and Zoning meeting at 6, which we went through kind of in more detail. The overlay draft as it is, it's been polished up quite a bit. So public was able to attend that too if they were interested. It was a positive meeting at Planning and Zoning, so now the next step is next month's Planning and Zoning, which is on February 18th. We will have a formal hearing on the text amendment and map amendment for that plan, and assuming that it gets a recommendation out of there, then it'll come to the board, this board, at a future meeting. So there still are a few more opportunities for the public to hear a presentation, to ask questions, but we were pleased to have some of the business owners and the chamber representatives at that open house, so I thought that was positive. We're gonna talk about the budget, so I'll hold off on that. The mayor and I have been meeting with additional business prospects, which he may talk about, and I will send the trustees some updates on just some of the other meetings I've had recently and some more opportunities, so I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
I had a couple questions. On the business development overlay. Where are the standards coming from? Are they being modeled off of something, or are they gonna be developed by the committee? That seems to be the point of confusion, is where the building standards will come from.
I mean, there's in the document, there's a difference between guidelines and standards, but I guess I wanna answer your question the best I can, is there's there's standards, I should say, and I just did it. But there's flexibility built into this too.
Yeah.
And frankly, for a lot of the existing folks, it may actually give them a little more flexibility, because now there's existing setbacks, whereas this overlay will allow building up to the property lines, which is common in downtown areas. The other, my mind just went blank.
Most of the questions are like, what kind of windows can I use? What kind of doors can I use? What kind of lighting can I do? You know,
Right.
the void is what's making,
Right.
people are having questions about.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to answer that. Gary, do you
Well,
have a?
yeah, I mean,
Gary's look-
it's impossible to put all that into one document.
Okay.
So that's why any place else that has something like that in their ordinance, they go by that percentage of how much work you're intending to do. One of the things is to try to keep it original. Like if you replace a window, don't put a smaller window in and fill in around it with something that doesn't match the building.
Okay.
Try to keep some consistency. And that's the whole idea. I mean, that's one of the things that I noticed at the open house is, everybody was looking for, okay, what are my rules?
Right.
What are you gonna make me do?
Or
And-
not let me do it.
Yeah, and that's really not the intent. The intent is to just make the downtown cohesive and go with the color palette. There's some setbacks and stuff that are in there that were never in the ordinance before, anywhere. So there's some things in there that are new. The rest of it, you go by the percentages. If somebody is doing over 45% of their facade, then that needs to come in with drawings, and it needs to go, be passed and looked at as to how they're gonna do it. Not to say that they're gonna get told how they need to do it. It's just a conversation of how it's gonna fit in, what it's gonna look like. It's not gonna be lime green, it's not gonna be canary yellow. It's gonna fit in with the rest of the downtown buildings. That's the whole idea.
And this is limited to the TIF 1 area, so it is a limited area. It's not the whole village, so if somebody wanted to build a very modern-looking building that wouldn't fit downtown, we have other parts of town where they could do that, but it's trying to, I think the underlying thing, which sounds like kind of platitudes, but it's like the historic downtown, the history here, and not have something that looks completely different from what's downtown. So, because there are other communities that wrestle with that, where you get those like neon colored buildings in a historic downtown, and it just looks out of place, so.
Well, in the overlay, it basically overlays the B1 district zoning, and that's it, just the B1 area.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Moving on to my comments, I'm just gonna run over a quick list of our accomplishments so far since I've taken over. We presented Detective Miller with a certificate of 25 years of service to the Peatone Police Department, and we welcomed part-time officer Oscar Galarza to the Peatone Police Department. We officially reappointed Stacy as our village clerk, worked out a new lower rate for the garbage price increase. Approved the contract extension for Chief Demick. We approved the contract extension for our administrator, Nick Palmer. The Schroeder eyesore is finally torn down. Can't wait to see until the new one is built. Amended the ordinance following the state guidance for electric scooters to protect our children. We had the first 2-day and very successful Mill Fest. We repaired a large number of sidewalks with a plan to do more. East Crawford Street was paved. Conrad Street storm sewer project and repaving was completed. We added FLEC and license plate reading cameras in various locations to help our police department. Changed the number of internal village services. We welcomed the new business Dolomiti to the downtown. We welcomed the new business Family Healthcare Clinic to the downtown. We welcomed the new business Children's Advocate LLC to the downtown. Welcome new business Hope Homeschool Pod LLC to the downtown. We welcome the new business the Bingo J Transportation to the village. We welcome the new business the UPS store to town, which is opening soon. We welcome the new business Clover Coffee and Pilates to town. That's also opening soon. And we have one more that may be added today. So I think we accomplished a good deal of things so far. We don't have any old business, so we'll move on to new business. Item D on new business is to approve a new business registration for SRM Peatone LLC doing business as Rosati's Pizza and Mila Indian Restaurant at 601 South 88th Avenue in Peatone. And I can see that they're here. Would you gentlemen like to come up and speak and tell us how this is going to work?
Right, so my name is Sulu Patel. I'm franchisee of Rosati's. We own 10 other locations in the area. So this will be our 11th in the Peatone Travel Center. And with that, this is a Rosari's Express, so it's not the full menu, but probably 70% of the full menu, since it's a small place. And we're also going to share the kitchen with Indian restaurant, which is like chicken tikka masala, chicken curry, some goat curry, like that. So it will be shared kitchen in the small space we have over there in the travel center.
Okay,
Any question?
so you have two totally different food types.
Mhm.
How do you, I mean, they both have different smells.
Yeah.
How do you keep them from, how do you keep them from combining?
So though it's shared kitchen, the utensils gonna be different. They won't be shared. The oven we have pizza won't be shared with the Indian stuff. So the steamer we have is separate. So whatever the Indian side is separate from the Rosati side. So they won't be cross contaminated.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Hudson, second Sturba.
Trustee Bowden?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Hudson?
Thank you, welcome. Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Welcome.
Is the UPS store open?
You're official.
The UPS store, is it
I
open?
think it's
Not
Not
till,
yet.
not till the middle of February.
Middle of February? Okay.
And item E in new business is the fiscal year 27 capital improvement workshop. And so we record it.
This is the capital improvement, right? Okay, so she's doing the second one.
Ah.
So we're gonna do, this is the workshop, the Peatone Capital Improvement Workshop. I'm gonna start off and then Anne Marie's gonna come up a little later. I've got a PowerPoint that we did at the AOC committee. So, most of you know this, but a capital improvement plan is a long-term plan for organizations. Plans and prioritizes funds major infrastructure, set over a defined period of time, helps with asset management and balances the needs with financial realities. And so tonight's workshop is designed to have a discussion here with the full board and also give the public the chance to hear some of the draft ideas as we move through the process. The ultimate goal is to build consensus and answer any questions, and we can obviously consider alternatives as we move through the process. So in our budget, there's 5 general categories: the general fund, the capital improvement fund, the business development district or BDD, and then TIF 1 and TIF 2. So in your packet was a draft plan that was, like I said, was reviewed at AOC. I've also met with, Anne Marie and I have talked with the police chief and the public works manager. So I'm just gonna highlight a few things that are in there and a few changes that we made. So for the police department, in the general fund, we have targeted to do 2 squad cars, since we didn't do 1 last year. We're holding that at about $140,000. In the out years, we budgeted $70,000 a year, and obviously we'll adjust if prices change. For public works, we have a number of vehicles lined up. These aren't all set in stone as far as the time frame, but the public works manager and I have talked about this, Bob, and you know, some of this is based on funds available, but we have targeted a new pickup truck in 27, a mini dump in 29, a larger plow in 30, a brush chipper in 31, and the front loader, we'll have to figure out, I mean, we've got it on for 31, but it could be somewhere in there too. I know that the discussion at the committee was, you know, why these vehicles? Well, we have 5 staff with, sometimes we divide and conquer, so if Bob's in his vehicle doing something, we have 4 other guys, they can split up 2 and 2 and do their work. So if we can do the vehicle, that would be helpful. The one other discussion is about the age of the trucks. Our oldest plow truck is from 1995, so it's got a few years on it. We've kept it going, and I mentioned at the committee that when it breaks down or there's pieces that we can fix, but as time goes on, we'll spend more time maintaining it maybe than operating it. So that's we need to build that in, but those are larger costs. And if anybody has any questions, please stop me. So then, moving on to the other parts of the capital improvement fund, we have $50,000 a year budgeted currently for the annual sidewalk program, which we did this year. With regard to paving, we had a pretty robust discussion at the AOC. One of the things I want to point out is that in 2020, CMAP, which is the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which is the Chicago Metro Regional Planning Agency, which there's a lot of federal rules and guidance that they are involved in overseeing big projects in an approval process. But they also fund a lot of activities. They funded a pavement management analysis report for communities across the region. Peatone had that done in 2020. It looked at life cycles and made a number of recommendations. And one example, and these are often beyond villages and municipalities' means, but the village at that time they recommended should be spending $300,000 annually just to maintain their existing roads, so that's not adding roads or expanding roads. So that just gives you a magnitude of what ideally we should be doing per that report. Again, funds are limited, but since I've been here, we have been consulting this report, and we did look at that in reviewing some of the projects that are listed in the plan. So that's that. The funding comes from our MFT, which is a state allocation, and then we do get 2 cents a gallon from the travel center, that's fuel sold there, but that goes into the general fund. And then we have stormwater projects. There's money for a new stormwater study, and some of the larger projects, you see the estimates in there. So I'm open to the pleasure of the board. Do we want to discuss individual projects, or do we just want to, I mean, you've got the list, but I mean, there's the one discussion at the committee, I'll just say, was about a couple of the projects targeted for 27 were on South Street and 4th Street, and at the committee there was a lot of discussion about what Aqua has planned or will be doing. I have talked to the Aqua rep, and he was open to having a meeting in the next few weeks and to start on an annual basis to meet prior to we get into this point to review what their capital plans are, what they know is set in stone or more likely versus what's not. But he offered that if I sent him the projects we have, he could look and see if there's any conflicts or, you know, planned work that they're gonna do, because the discussion at committee was, if we're gonna pave a road and then next year Aqua comes along and tears up the road, that would be kind of silly, and we don't want to do that if we can avoid it. Now, we can't avoid water main breaks or other problems, but at least we can be proactive and try to identify those. So, and the other thing I did mention is Public Works is meeting tomorrow, so we can dig into these projects too with that committee. But just high level, those 2 projects were on for 27. We had East Main Street from Village Hall to Illinois 50 and 28. Gull Landing up Gull View Drive in 29, and then Meadow Lane in 30. But obviously, there's lots more projects that could be swapped in or out. We're putting some of the projects that are needed on the list for you all to weigh in on as we move through the budget process. The other thing I'll just mention about the road paving is West Street, which we approved a resolution at last month's meeting committing to the local match. We need to at least keep that on our radar, because when the funding does become available, we're committed to $655,000 at this point to match for that. And so we don't want to get to that year when that funding actually becomes available and not have it available. But that's not guaranteed that it's going to be in 30 and 31, but that's what we're putting it on there for now, just as a placeholder.
We might find out in the spring, usually when they do the program.
Okay, so we'll have a better idea and we can adjust. The storm sewer are on here just to show the board and the public the magnitude of those. Like the Royal Lane is estimated 1.3 million, Howard Street storm sewer 1.4 to 1.65, West Main Street is 1.1 million. Now, the positive is we have made progress on some storm projects over recent years. I mean, we just, as the mayor mentioned, the Conrad storm sewer, and we did the Elborn a few years back. So those do get done, but they're major projects and usually require external funding just because we don't have that type of money locally here. But those are still on our radar. We have some preliminary investigations, but that's why we have some money in there for a future stormwater study. If we wanted to pick one of those and drill down, we could go down and do more work and move it more towards, you know, planning for action. And then the last things I mentioned is we have the salt dome in there in the out year, and then the sidewalk improvements along Wilmington Peatone we discussed. Will County is doing a Pell study along Peatone Wilmington from Drexler all the way to 53. They're working through some of those planning on that, so we thought putting that in an out year right now until we know better what their time frame is to construction, because again, we don't want to build a sidewalk and then have them come along shortly thereafter and it have a conflict or whatever. Once we know better what their plan is, we can decide whether we want to move forward earlier or later. And then the last sections, I'll just talk about the BDD and the TIF funds. At committee, we discussed this. We have on our SIP listed money for the facade improvement program, both in the BDD and TIF 1, but that really doesn't belong in the SIP because it's not property that we're gonna own. So even though we've had it the last couple of years, we put it here for now, but we're gonna fund that and record it in the regular operational budget, but the funds will come from the BDD and the TIF. So just if those disappear, I'll remind you that they're not gone, they're just in a different place. We did put an earmark for speakers in the downtown. And then we discussed the Railroad Street parking lot improvements, which I know has been discussed before. I didn't remove that yet, but we were talking about, one, we have to secure that land from the current owner, whether they were gonna donate or buy, the village was gonna buy from them, but we had plans previously at the village to renovate the parking lot directly across the tracks from Village Hall to add some additional parking, so we were just kind of putting that as a consideration. And then finally, there was some funds in here for Village Hall remodel coming out of the TIF 1 fund. And that's a whole nother topic that I would like to bring to a committee because we had some discussion at the AOC, but we've had a number of challenges lately. And again, we talked about doing studies and we paid for studies, and this one we did do a facility need space study, and we don't want that to get dusty, but there are challenges with this building with the HVAC and a number of other things, so I would like to bring that to a committee where we can talk about it. But so that's a lot, and that was kind of the speed through, but are there any questions from any of the board members? If not, Anne Marie, maybe just come up for a minute to talk about keep going through this, the available revenue streams, just to kind of put some perspective on that, so.
Hi. So can you pull that one up on the screen?
This one?
Yeah, so the revenue is kind of broken down the same way that Nick just went through the spending, is kind of by fund. So we have a couple different sources that we use. I'm gonna kind of start with the ones that are strictly like capital sources. So we have our motor fuel tax that we get each year, and that's sent to us by the state on a per capita basis. Our annual revenue is about $180,000 for the last few years, and that's probably what we'll estimate for next year. We base our estimates on the Illinois Municipal League issues per capita rates every year, and we usually follow what IML says. Most municipalities follow that. So our MFT revenues will be about $180,000 in 2027, and then we also have some reserves in our MFT fund. The total reserves we have are about $200,000, so we thought we could take some of those reserves and use that to fund the South Street road projects that are listed, I think South Street and 4th Street, that are listed on the list that Nick just went through. So that would fund our capital for the road projects, and then fund balance within that CIP fund would fund the sidewalk plans we have, as well as the shortage for the road projects, because we don't have enough MFT to actually cover the whole project. So those would be pretty much the sources that we used in our CIP fund to pay for those projects. The projects that are listed in the general fund, which were the squad car and the public works truck, that comes to about $215,000. We would actually use just general fund revenues that we get in 2017, and we would use those revenues to pay for those trucks. The BDD and the TIF, you're gonna obviously use funds within those funds to pay for expenses in that fund. BDD and TIF funds are limited on what you can use them for. They have to be either TIF eligible or eligible to spend on business development within the district. So those are the two revenue sources that you see up there. The one line item that says contribution from the general fund is kind of our plug number, I guess you would say. There aren't actually enough dedicated sources within the other funds, within the CIP fund, to pay for all the capital on the list. So we're gonna draw a little bit out of the general fund, transfer it over to capital so that we can actually do these projects in 2027 and have them fully funded. So if that all makes sense, if you have any questions.
Just as a correction too, we discovered today as we were reviewing this, that in the projects on South and Fourth, there was an overstated number, so that number came down a little bit, because if we did both projects, as we talked about at AOC, it's a little cheaper than if you do them separately, and I just accidentally grabbed the total number and engineering, I think, versus construction engineering, so it's that 541, 500, I think is, if you add them up.
490,
Yeah, it was
494, I believe.
yeah, so anybody checking my numbers, it was off a little bit, so.
So, I mean, basically what we need to do is we need to prioritize those projects. There's another meeting tomorrow where it will be discussed. We discussed it at AOC. We didn't really prioritize anything. We did talk about South Street. It does need to be repaved. The concern was with Aqua because the sewer runs down the middle of that street, and you know, last thing we want to do is go make it look beautiful and then have them come along and dig it up, which can always happen if something breaks, but
Trying to avoid it.
so, I mean, that project could be up near the top with, you know, the other ones, but we were just kind of looking for Aqua's blessing,
Right.
that they, you know, just so we asked the question, we did our due diligence, so.
And that's, I will, as I said, I will have that meeting very soon and share our list of projects and see just which ones, if any, they have work planned. And then they said they were very interested or willing to continue this practice going forward so that we can always know what they have planned. I mean, unplanned, just like us, it's gotta deal with emergencies, but I think that'll be helpful so that there's more confidence that we're doing projects and not gonna have those conflicts, so.
And Aqua does have options besides digging the sewer up,
Right.
you know, with sleeving, there is
Sure.
other practices they could do.
So just to be able to move forward with the budget, we'll utilize these amounts and in a draft form in the budget so that we can kind of move forward. Obviously, they're subject to change until the day the board approves the budget document and the ordinance. But we'll, if it's okay, we're just gonna kind of use these to go forward, knowing that they can change. Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Item F, the new business, we're gonna discuss and approval of resolution authorizing the execution of comprehensive strategic planning services with CP2 Consulting Incorporated. That resolution will be 26-R-02. And I do believe we have Cora from CP2 Consulting, and she's gonna give us a little rundown.
I'm just gonna do a quick introduction. So this was discussed, for the board members were at AOC, we discussed this quite a bit. And so Corey's here to make a presentation, give you a little overview and answer questions. But this is something that I met Corey at a conference, I'd seen her present before, and I just thought strategic planning would be useful for the village and beyond. So she'll tell us all about what that is, and I'll comment if there's any more need later.
That's okay. How can I bring up my presentation?
So if, exit. If you do the little Windows in K, it should give you a choice in your screen hopefully, and then you just click on it.
So it's connecting, which is always good. All right. Oh, look at that. Beautiful web starts, right? Okay. So thank you very much for having me here. As Nick mentioned, my name is Corey Clash. A little bit about me. I started my career in local government. I actually started my career as a 911 dispatcher. From there, I progressed to working in the city manager's office in a couple different communities. So I worked for both the city of DeKalb and for King County. So I let you kind of read the other stuff at your leisure, but the other thing is I actually have a passion for small communities. I lived in a community of 2,000 for 20 years. That's why I always have discounted small communities, because a lot of times budgets are small, and the challenges in small communities though are just as much as they are in the big communities. So it's an opportunity to be able to give back to the smaller communities. My son graduated with a graduating class of 48 from Hinkley Big Rock High School. So why a strategic plan? A strategic plan basically is the opportunity to have some really important conversations with a whole lot of different people, with the community, with the board, with staff, with business owners, with high school students, right? And talk about what's really important for the community. And then to prioritize those things. So a lot of times we don't really have a chance to have those conversations. It's a chance to kind of get everybody on the bus and headed in the same direction. So what does this look like? And I'll explain it to you a little bit more detail, but kind of the big things are stakeholder engagement, things like focus groups and surveys, understanding the operating environment, vision, mission, strategic goals, outcomes and performance targets, I'll talk about that, and then implementation, because implementation is really important. So what is the operating environment? So the environmental scan. So what's the impact of things like political realities, everybody's favorite unfunded mandates, right? I have actually, the person who helps me with that is actually Yates McLaughlin, who works for the Will County Governmental League. So it's somebody who is actually relatively local, but we also not look at just only the things that are local to Will County, but also state and federal things that are impacting our community. Organizational profile are things like, how many retirements are we gonna have? What's our financial situation? A lot of times we deal with things bit by bit, like we did tonight with the CIP. This kind of pulls us out to look at things in a more integrated way, and then a SWOT, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So then we go to leadership retreats. So what is this? So we start with a visioning session. What I have found is that as adults, we're not so great at dreaming. As kids, if you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they're going to tell you they're going to be an astronaut, a ballerina, and a doctor, right? But when we talk to adults about what we want for our communities, sometimes that can be really tough. Part of this is to really dream about what you want for Peatone, and so that would be the first session, is to kind of lead you through an exercise. What do you see for Peatone in 20 years? We would then follow that up with leadership retreats, consisting of work in small groups of elected officials and staff. Now, all of this work would be informed by the surveys and the focus groups that we have done before that. So I would do an online survey, but also come in to do focus groups. So I'm gonna be the board on site doing all of this work with you. That helps us when we get to the leadership retreat to really have a good understanding of, from the community, businesses, high school students, all those other people, what is it that's really important? So what do? We actually go through and we work in small groups. The good news is that I don't wanna hear me talk all day, you guys don't wanna hear me talk all day. It's very interactive. It's an opportunity for you guys to talk to each other. We figure out what some of the strategic issues, some of the strategic priorities are. And then we figure out what kind of goals then we need, along with outcomes. An outcome is simply, what does success look like? And so we'll figure that out for Peatone. we're looking 3 to 5 years in the future, what does success look like for you? So it's an opportunity for you guys to have some conversations that sometimes you don't always have the opportunity to have. And looking at things in a little bit more integrated. We talked about the CIP tonight, but we talk about things like operations, our staff, how we're serving the community. So we're looking at it a little bit more globally than sometimes we normally do. So the process allows the board to work collaboratively all the way from that community vision, all the way through performance targets. So let's say that we've got a goal like balanced development. I have yet to run into a community that does not have some sort of interest in some sort of business development, right? What could it look like? So outcome, as I mentioned, is always like, what does success look like? I worked with a community in Wisconsin who actually was struggling with development. They had all of their votes were either going 3-4 or 4-3 because they had not really had a chance to sit down and had some conversations about what did they really want. Through the process, what they were able to figure out was they really wanted increased development on these 2 specific corridors in town. They had a business development area already. The proposals that were being brought in were outside of that area. And the people who were voting no, that's actually part of the reason why they were voting no. So what we were able to do then is we were able to say, okay, we want increased development here on these 2 corridors. What that has done for them then, the administrator has told me she doesn't know whether to love me or hate me, because when developers are looking at communities to go to, they'll look at 2 documents normally, something like a comp plan, but also a strategic plan. What do you want? This gives them direction as to whether or not you guys will be open to development. It gives them a nice idea of what kinds of things to look at. So that's an idea of what kind of outcomes and targets we can look at. And then talking about implementation, a plan does you absolutely no good. If we do it, it sits on a shelf and collects dust. The best way to take care of that is for you guys to have help with the implementation. So I actually come in to help with that as well. What does that mean? It means that I actually help you guys through the plans, the programs to make the strategic plan come to life. We then integrate that with things like your budget, your CIP, so that everything works together. And then we also set up a plan for how we're gonna go ahead and track and report progress, not only to the board, but also to the community. So you're not rid of me yet, hopefully you like me by then. Because what I do is I keep on checking back in with you. My firm focuses on strategic planning and organizational development, period. That's it. I'm never gonna come back and offer to recruit a whatever or do a comp and class study or anything else. This is what we focus on. And because of that, a lot of times there's changes that are going on. And so I'm always coming back going, hey, did you ever think about doing this? Here's something else that I'm seeing is working out really well for my other communities. So I'm always a resource for the communities that I work with. I'm not a company where I come in, you guys give me a check and I disappear. I'm always going to be here as a resource for you. Sessions are conducted via Zoom. I could probably twist my arm to come in, I'm only about an hour away. And we share with you new developments. And then why us? Again, we specialize in strategic planning. I've got a decade of direct work with this. I've got certifications. I only work with local government and nonprofit organizations. About 90% of my work is with local government. This is what I love. I see city block walls and I get really excited. And then I also work extensively in Illinois. Some of the organizations that I've worked with are there, including Lockport, and I am actually giving them their final report next week. So that was kind of a high-level presentation. Do you have any questions?
So this process takes about how long?
Usually takes about 4 to 6 months. The nice thing is that we're past the holidays because that's always really tricky with scheduling. A lot of it has to do with just making sure that we're accommodating schedules. We have a lot of schedules to accommodate, and really that's actually what takes the most time, but usually about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
What's the expectations for the staff? What do they need to be ready for?
So with the staff, really they need to be going through part of the environmental scan, that organizational profile, to help us understand what some of the things are that they are seeing. They're our subject matter experts. So for them to be able to tell us, we're seeing this as something that's coming up. So, for example, law enforcement, right? We have seen in law enforcement, it is getting harder and harder to hire. It's finally letting up a little bit, but that may not be something that all the board members are aware of. To kind of let us know what some of those things are that are sitting out there that could be a challenge for the future. So they'll let us know about things like that in the organizational profile, and then to actually participate in several of the sessions. And then when we get to the actual implementation, one of the things that's important is sometimes I see people from other industries who come in and work with local government and they don't understand capacity. I've worked in local government. I have yet to see people walking around twiddling their thumbs with their feet up on their desk because they have nothing to do. That's just not what happens here, right? So being able to make sure we have capacity. So I will be working with them on capacity, but also being willing to kind of think about things in new ways. That's the other thing with staff, right? Is being willing to try something new. Think about the ways that we, maybe some of our processes, could we do this differently, maybe better? Is there a way that maybe we could take some time off of what is a process that we've had before? Could we maybe make it easier for the public? Those are all some of the things that we're gonna talk about. So just being open-minded to things like that.
And then what about other taxing bodies and the public?
Yeah, absolutely.
Walk me through what you do with it, because we honestly, we suffer from a lot of apathy.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
how do you engage,
how do you
engage
Yes.
them?
how do you get us
Yes.
to engage?
And
I
the,
love
like
the
the high
question.
school kids too.
Oh, yes. Okay, so first of all, high school kids are a captive audience if you can work with a high school, which is what I like to do. So what I will do is I will actually, normally there is some sort of government class. So I will see that I can work with the high school to see if I can go in during a class period and use that as a focus group. And usually the government teacher is thrilled to have someone come in because we're talking about the future of this community. It's an opportunity for them to be able to give some input on that. A lot of it has to do with messaging, right? How is it that we are communicating what we're doing? This is about the future of your community. That's what strategic planning is. Sometimes it feels a little bit more accessible to the community than some other things do. So messaging is a big part of it. Making sure that we are going ahead and when we're talking about focus groups, making sure that we're pushing it out. I'm gonna be depending partly on you to be talking to people and saying, hey, we're gonna do a strategic plan. There's focus groups, come on in. We'd love to have you. The business community, we wanna hear from a bunch of different perspectives on that. We had talked about doing a survey as well. Again, we can do that in a whole bunch of different ways. QR codes, reaching out to local churches, nonprofits, all sorts of different ways, other taxing bodies. I've had churches and schools send out a QR code with the survey link so that we can get more participation. But strategic plans are a little bit different because where things like a CIP sometimes are kind of hard to understand. This is about the community where a lot of times people, they own the homes, they're raising families here. It is a little bit easier sometimes to get them to understand the importance to their everyday life. Just have to message it well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I will also specifically, I will say, we'll specifically try to have some focus groups and things like other taxing bodies, nonprofits. High school students have already covered businesses. A lot of times they have some very unique perspectives simply because they interact with the city in different ways, village in different ways.
Thank you.
Once the plan is completed and hoping businesses are gonna come and they're gonna look at that, do you recommend us blasting it out there into the public or other than just our webpage?
Yeah.
Other ideas for that?
So part of when we bring in the community, because we're gonna be communicating with them, please, we're gonna have focus groups, we're gonna have surveys, whatever, part of that is going to be, oh yes, and there's going to be a report. Here's how it is that we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna be talking about this, right? So they'll know that there will be a report. I've got a graphic designer, you'll have a very pretty report when it's done, but also how will we be reporting progress as we go through, because that's the other important part of this too, right? It's not just about having a plan, but what's being done with the plan. So going ahead and working with Nick and staff on having periodic progress reports. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. Part of the strategic planning process is we may wind up figuring that out, what is gonna be the best way to communicate. But we are definitely gonna wanna be communicating with the community.
Any other questions?
So we put this on the agenda for a discussion, and Corey was fortunately available tonight. I don't know if everybody is ready to consider this and take action tonight, but we put it on as an agenda item, and I put a resolution in there just so we were prepared if we wanted to do that. But I didn't want to be presumptuous, because I know some of you have reached out to some of the references and done some checks. I've talked to a few of the communities myself, I know some of them. I knew Lockport was getting done, and I mentioned this at committee, that some of their elected officials had some skepticism at the onset, but I talked to their administrator today, again, to just make sure I heard him correctly previously, and he told me some of the backstories, but I think they're pretty pleased, and they're continuing to do regular updates over the years to keep updating and making sure they're focused. So, but it's really the board's prerogative if we want to take action tonight, not take action tonight. I wanted to move this along because I think this is very valuable, and that's why I brought it to the board for consideration. I think I've been meeting with the various taxing bodies, and I think they all are interested in collaboration, but I think this will help maybe that along with the chamber and the other business community. And I think, as been mentioned, this helps us chart our course for economic development and things like that. We may not agree with everything we hear, and you all can make your own decisions because you're the elected officials, but at least we're gonna hear it. And like I've said at committee, and I've talked a lot of you individually, either you confirm what you already know, or you might find some blind spots too, or just get a different perspective, and I think that's valuable. But it's up to you all, so kind of, what do you want to do?
So this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You know, I'm skeptical of plans, because we do a lot of plans, we don't do anything with them. But this, we're not doing anything anyway, so maybe a plan, some sort of plan is better than no plan. Because we're really not moving forward with anything right now. So.
I mean, I agree. If you keep on doing what you're doing, you gotta expect the same result. And so when this came up, that's why I started looking at it, and I'm like, that kinda brings everybody together with a goal. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea. What do you think, Mayor?
I think this is something that would really help the business opportunities presented to us actually want to come here. If they have something in their hands or on their screen that they can visualize what Peatone is and what it wants to be, I think it would be quite informational for them, and I think it would be a great idea.
So this is gonna be a lot of work for you guys, and us a little bit. Are you guys ready? Is this a good time to do this?
I was gonna ask the question, when you asked what's the expectation of staff, I was gonna say, what's the expectation of the electeds? Because, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the cruise director, you're the facilitator,
I am the
you're
tour guide,
but
yes.
tour guide, but this is only as good as the staff.
I mean-
Well, start with the electeds, the staff, the community. If we don't put the input in, this isn't gonna be as good as it can be.
I mean, it
Yeah.
looks like about 7 or 8 hours of meetings. Is that,
So there is, the visioning session, is usually about 2.5 hours, but I'm not gonna lie down, it's really fun. You guys will really enjoy it, it's really fun. So there's that. I do ask for just a quick interview with, each one of you, it's just to get to know you a little bit, to see if you have any questions. One of the things that's really important to me at the retreat is that we use our time well. And so, if by having just one-on-one conversations with everybody, we can jump right in and make sure that we're using our time well from the start. So, the visioning session, those one-on-one interviews, I will have a SWOT survey for you that usually takes people about 10 minutes to do. If you choose to spend 90 minutes on that, you can, but it takes most people 10 or so. And then the day of the retreat itself, is usually, I like to say 7 hours. If we're pretty good about popping along with stuff, we're usually done in about 6.5. So that is the total time as far as expectations from the board.
Where's the retreat? You take us somewhere?
Oh, well, that's all. You need to look at the man right over there and ask him some questions.
Yeah.
Warm?
I mean, the key to this whole thing for us, and that's why we're a little skeptical, is implementation.
100%.
I mean, stuff like this has been done in the past, and you know, like Todd mentioned, it kind of gets put on a shelf and nobody follows through.
I will tell you, I actually don't do strategic plans unless I do implementation. It's for that very reason, right? Because I don't want to be known as the person who did the strategic plan that got dust on it.
Yeah.
If you plan out implementation and you plan out a reporting structure, so I actually use some project management techniques when we're planning out implementation, right? So that we have a structure in place with some accountability and some expectations. How often are you going to see it? What can you expect to see? You guys have got a small staff. The smallest community that I've worked with, 2,200 in Wisconsin, right? I work with communities of all sizes. I've worked with Franklin, Tennessee. I've worked with Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm working with Skokie right now, right? So I work with communities of all different sizes, including 2,200. The thing is that we have to have one that is right-sized for you so that you can implement it, and then we need to give you the structure to do so. So there's kind of 2 parts to that, and I'm prepared to deliver on both.
So I reached out to your reference in Geneva.
Yeah, to Ben.
Yeah, and, okay, so the question was, how effective was CP2 at engaging residents, staff, and elected officials? He replied, we relied on CP2 to facilitate a number of public input sessions, focus groups, and present information to the council. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, is he
Yeah.
reflecting what we can expect?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
okay.
I have got a team behind me,
Mhm.
but I'm the one who does all of the in-person stuff.
Yeah.
I will probably, on my 2026 time, my own strategic plan is to bring somebody on this year, so I might be bringing someone along with me at some point in time, but I will be the person on site facilitating all of the things that are on your proposal.
Yeah, I'm with Todd and Gary. I think we need to try. But we need to be committed to it, and we can't be distracted by other things. I mean, I'm looking at you, but I think I'm looking at all of us. You know, if we jump in the water, we gotta make sure we swim and get this thing done, and then, like you said, start using it.
And that's what made Corey's pitch attractive, was that she has the back end stuff, that it's going to be something we're going to do, put our effort in and carry it forward. Because if we've talked about this, we beat this up lately, we don't want plans that sit on shelves, don't spend the money, but this is a plan that's gonna become a big piece of us moving forward.
I got a lot of faith in Corey. I'm not so sure about us, so. I think
I'm a really good tour guide. I'm a really good tour guide.
Well, that's why your role is so important. I mean, when this first came up, I'm like, we've done that before, we can do it by ourselves. And I started digging into it, and I'm like, nah, we can't do it right, we need somebody.
And sometimes we just need the discipline from an outsider.
What do you think, Nick? What do you think?
I'm okay with it. Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. And I'll tell you I'm a total weirdo, because this to me, like, it's not, I didn't start doing this because I had to. I started doing this because I really love it, because I really do feel like it's an opportunity to be able to get everybody to have the right conversations so that everybody is focused and they know where they're going. And it truly is a privilege to do that. I love what I do every day. This is not work to me. It's a joy.
I did look into, however you pronounce that.
McWanago.
Yeah, I looked into the community to see how close it was to ours, their 8,000
Yeah.
smaller community.
Yeah.
They're most famous for politicians. That's their notable people, lots of them.
Yeah, and I'm presenting at the Wisconsin City County Management Association this summer with the administrator there, because it's made such a difference to their community.
They also have 2 routes that go through their area, not an interstate, but they're 2 major routes, and they're looking to develop.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve this.
Second.
Motion Bowden, second Sluse.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Sandberg,
Yes.
trustee Sluse,
Yes.
trustee Sturba,
Yes.
trustee Bowden.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Corey.
you all. Thank you very much. I look
Thanks,
forward to
Cory.
working.
Thank you for coming
Thank you.
down on this very cold evening.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Just go right there. You did.
So we got questions from the press. Stephanie, do you have anything?
None for me, thank you.
Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Any correspondence, communications, or petitions anybody want to discuss? And we are going to close our regular session, go into executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, 5 ILCS 120/C1. Also the number 2 point is discussion of the minutes of the meetings lawfully closed under the OMA, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of minutes as mandated by section 206, 5 ILS 120/C21. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Sluse, second Sturba.
Trustee Sandberg,
Yes.
trustee Sluse.
Yes.
Trustee Sturba,
Yes.
trustee Bowden,
Yes.
trustee Hudson.
Yes.